We're diving straight into one of the most significant cases of medical research fraud in Japan's recent history. It's a story of fabricated data, broken trust, and the difficult search for truth inside the scientific community. So picture this. Between 2015 and 2018, a pretty shocking scandal started to unravel in Japan's academic world. And we're not talking about a simple mistake here or a minor miscalculation. No, this was a complete betrayal of the scientific process, built on patients who never existed and results that were totally made up. Okay, so to really get our heads around what went down, we first need to understand how Japan's Ministry of Education, you'll see it called MEXT, officially classifies this kind of thing. There were two specific types of fraud at the very heart of this scandal. First up, you've got nitsuzo, and that literally means fabrication. I mean, creating something from absolutely nothing. In this situation, the researcher just invented patient data. They created records for people who never ever existed, all to pad out the findings in their research papers. And then there's the second type, kaizan, or falsification. Now, this is a bit different. Instead of just inventing data, the researcher took real measurements. We're talking actual blood pressure readings and lab results, and deliberately changed them. They tweak the numbers to manipulate the final results and make their conclusions seem way more significant than they actually were. All right, so we've got fabrication and falsification, two really serious accusations. But the big question is, who was behind all this, and where did it all happen? The person at the center of it all, the one officially found responsible by the ministry, was a lecturer at a major university. And that's a huge deal, right? This wasn't some inexperienced student who made a bad call. This was an established academic researcher. And the institution where this all unfolded? The Osaka Medical and Pharmaceutical University. The investigation uncovered a critical failure here. A university's own systems for oversight and for auditing research just weren't strong enough. This basically created an environment where misconduct could happen and go completely unnoticed for years. You know, it's really important to stress this point. This was not a case of a big pharmaceutical company trying to rush a drug to market. This fraud happened entirely within the walls of a university, in the world of academic research. And that has some seriously deep implications for how much we can trust the scientific process itself. But you can't keep a lie this big under wraps forever. Sooner or later, the truth comes out. So how did this whole house of cards come crashing down? Let's walk through the steps that brought everything into the light. I mean, just look at the stark difference between what was claimed and what was real. On one side, you have these impressive results being published in medical journals, but when investigators peeled back the layers, it was a totally different story. The patients they supposedly studied, no record of them. The data was intentionally altered, and the entire statistical significance was a sham. And uncovering all this wasn't some single aha moment. It was more like a slow-moving chain reaction. It actually started from the inside, with colleagues and the university's own ethics committee starting to raise some red flags. That triggered an internal university probe, which then got serious enough to be handed over to MEXT for a formal investigation. And from there, the official verdict was just a matter of time. See, fraud like this is never just a contained explosion. The damage sends out shockwaves, creating a ripple effect that spreads way, way beyond that one researcher or that single university. You can really break down the damage into three main levels. First, there's the academic fallout. Multiple papers had to be retracted, which is a huge black eye for the scientific journals themselves. Then you've got the medical risk. Spreading false findings could have sent other researchers down the wrong path or even influenced future patient treatments. And finally, there's the social cost. The whole scandal just hammered public trust in science. So what was the immediate response? Well, it was a 1-2 punch of punishment and transparency. The university took disciplinary action against the lecturer, of course. But just as importantly, the ministry made its investigative findings public, ensuring that the truth, no matter how ugly, was out there for everyone to see. But the story doesn't just stop with punishment. In a way, this massive scandal became the wake-up call that was needed. It actually acted as a major catalyst for rebuilding the entire system of checks and balances in Japanese medical research. You can draw a straight line from this scandal to some huge systemic changes. Right as this fraud was being investigated, Japan enacted a brand new law in 2018, the Clinical Trials Act.
Now, this single case wasn't the only reason for the new law, but it served as a powerful, real-world example of exactly why stricter rules on data management and transparency were so desperately needed.
So when you boil it all down, what you have is a perfect storm of failure. You had an individual who broke the most fundamental rules of science, and you had an organization, the university, whose systems just weren't strong enough to stop them. The result was a deep loss of trust, and the only possible response was to build a stronger, more transparent system for everyone.
This entire scandal led to new laws and stricter rules, all designed to enforce compliance. But that leaves us with one last, really critical question, doesn't it? New rules can certainly enforce compliance, but can a piece of paper ever truly guarantee scientific integrity?